Hi, this is Timika Chambers, and welcome to another episode of Heal from the Inside Out. Now in my third season, and I've started talking about or using my mother's life lessons, which I turn into principles. I've talked about these before, but never so much in every week talking about how these principles help me to put my experiences in a healthy perspective. So I have two different podcasts or episodes actually that I do. One of them, a series that I do, is the Seeds We Plant. That's on Wednesdays, where I talk about this generational looking at the root of our actions. Many the things that you see in the world, the wars, the greed, the bullying, all of that stuff, the overeating. So we look at it and we try to peel back those layers to get to the root of that. And I share my experiences, just like I do on Fridays, where I look at really dumping the trash. Because I believe when we come here, we know exactly what it is that we're here to do. And as children, but allow life to kind of bury, if you will, our gifts, our talents, the motivation, the determination, the conviction. We allow that to happen to us. And it's about my mother's principles, which I've been sharing starting last week. I talked about one of the major things that she told me, and these are life lessons that she would just share her experiences with us, with me, and talk about what she went through using facts, staying away from calling people outside of their name, but really just telling her story. And from that, I gathered principles from that I used to build my foundation because I had been a part of some experiences that I didn't too much care for. And that was, being raised. Well, first of all, growing up in a home where my father physically, verbally, socially abused my mother, and then having the misuse of my body, and being raised by a single parent, an African American woman with a high school degree. She went on to get other education, but growing up, raised by a mother, a single mother who wanted us to have a better life than she did. And I believe that the most important, most critical thing she did, it wasn't all the things that she gave us, new shoes, having a room for ourselves, getting a house, TV, VCRs, but it was more of her principles. Because no matter what, that materialistic stuff can go away. But these principles, these priceless principles that I gather from her life lessons have been those that have kept me out of a lot of trouble and allowed me again to put my experiences in a healthy perspective. And one of the things that we often want to do when we experience there are so many ways that we react to pain, right? We can tell lies or tell a different story. We can hide it, be in denial, suppress the information. We can want to run. We can want to hide. And if you ask me, everything that I've been through, especially the latter and the misuse of my body when the secret came out, I can honestly tell you that I wanted to run. I wanted to leave. I wanted to just run away. I wanted to start my life over. But what kept me physically for a short time was that things could be even worse outside of that protective environment I had from my mother. Things could have been worse. I could have, it wasn't as bad as you hear today about, the trafficking and people murdering people, homicides, runaways, especially runaways. But, I just didn't know what else could happen to me if it could be worse. So I stayed where I was, and I'm glad I did because thereafter, at some point, my mother started sharing more of her experiences, especially after leaving the guy that she married, my father. But also, I think in the space, the time that she needed to heal from that she needed to share her her stories and what she went through. And one of the things that after I had been through the dark wilderness of sexual abuse, I realized that I needed to become a student of life. I needed to learn from my experiences and not just run away. And so, one of the things that my mother shared with me, one of the principles that I'm about to share with you this week, is that after you accept the truth, then you can move forward. And I believe there are so many I've coached people, I've cared for people over 20 years in the nursing healthcare profession as a nurse, a trained nurse, and I've seen where people didn't accept. what happened to them. And I think one of the symptoms that we get is that our bodies start physically speaking to us. Whether it's headaches, migraines. I was going through Louise's Hay book, You Could Heal Your Body, and just really get a newfound perspective. I've been reading also to the Master Key System, had the book for a long time, and came across it when I listened to The Greatest Secret by Rhonda Burns. And before that, I had listened to and watched The Secret again. And it's amazing how we can hold a lot of these negative thoughts. One of the things that I mentioned in my manuscript that I wrote about my experiences and what I learned and what got me through my experience with misuse of my body is the importance of one, looking at your thoughts, examining your thoughts, and number two, in realizing that you don't have to experience a lot of pain because pain was projected on you. And one of the chapters I devote to is the mental separation of your experience. Often we want to do a physical separation. We want to leave a bad relationship, and you've heard it where you leave a bad environment or you grow up in a dangerous or a place and are in a poor place and you leave and you go to California or become successful. That often we think the physical is what's going to help us to be more whole, and it's not. It's actually the mental, right? Why we keep, even though we have changed our lifestyle, why we keep making the same mistakes, why we keep attracting the same people, abusive people, people that verbally abuse us, the people that physically abuse us. We're out of that environment. So why are we still going to that? Because we're still trapped in that mindset, though, those thoughts, those weeds that speak to us and tell us we're less than what we are, that we deserve it, or any of the verbal poison that we've allowed to sow within us and to grow within us. But my mother said, after you accept the truth, then you can move forward. And what I think about is that mental separation of really changing our thoughts, of allowing, first of all, you to experience those thoughts that come up, that you're not pushing them away. And that was one of the things that was helpful for me, is that I didn't push away the thoughts and I saw beyond the thoughts. I kept looking at the innocent girl. I kept looking at the compassionate girl. I kept looking at the one who wanted to enjoy life. I looked beyond the projected pain, and I realized that very early on, the pain was not about me. I was just the person that was there, the person that was vulnerable, the person who wanted to do right, who was curious, who wanted to enjoy life. I was the person that was there. If anybody else was there, and there were, they too would have probably have experienced what I had experienced. Maybe not as long, maybe not as in depth, maybe worse. I don't know. But I do know that every cell in my body knows what happened. So there is I definitely did not want to deny what had happened, because I truly believed in my heart, when you deny stuff, that you are setting something up in your body. And as I say this, I think about weeds. I think about the growth, sowing denial, and how that growth and how those weeds look and how they can suck all of the nutrients out of your spiritual fruit, the fruit that's growing in you, the love, the compassion, the trust, your purpose, your mission. That many people are walking around not knowing what to do with their lives, or they feel like their mission and their purpose have been tampered. And it's not so much by the event, it's more about the thoughts that have been processed, the thoughts that have been sown, the thoughts that have continually grown inside of you, that may have told you to deny it. It's hurtful. You got to deny it. And one of the things that I realized, and at a point where I realized that not to take the impersonal stuff personal, right? What was done to me, that projection of pain, was more about that person than it was about me. And that's what helped me to really put this principle to heart, is that after you accept that somebody, yes, projected or pain on me. Yes, I experienced this. Yes, I held the secret. Yes, I participated, but that did not mean that I was like that, that I deserved it, that I should be like it, or that I should look for it. As a matter of fact, it was the opposite for me. And I believe it can be that if you know what pain feels like, you can let pain be your greatest teacher and look for love. And that was the one of the things that I look for. So when we talk about after you accept the truth, that is the first thing that needs to be done, I believe, to really move forward. Because some people say, well, you can move forward, you can continue to live, but are you really living? Are you just allowing life to push you in different directions? Are you allowing anger to really direct you and the weeds that the weed growth that it can cause inside of you? And that was one of the other things that I didn't want to be angry. I didn't feel like I should be angry. I didn't want to lead a life where I could destroy myself from the inside out because I believe that we hold the detonators in our hands to either to help us to grow in a more wonderful way, in a more spiritual way, in a more pure way, in a more loving way, or we can destroy ourselves from the inside out by allowing anger and frustration and denial to really seep into our soul and to damage it and try to destroy it, try to destroy the fruit that's in you, even though it's there. But really you've seen it where something a garden can be so beautiful, but if you allow the weeds to take over, they can really make it seem so unlivable. And I believe that's what happens, and it happens from the inside out, and it has been portrayed in many people's lives because we feel like that we cannot handle what happened to us, that we have to do something. And the biggest thing that I think that we need to do mentally is to separate ourselves in a way from the experience that we realize that it isn't something that I need to take personal. It isn't something that has to define me. It isn't something that I have to act as such or I have to experience the complications associated with it. After you accept the truth, after you accept what was done, and you know that it does not define you. You know that it does not have a hold on you unless you give it that. You know that you can change your mind, that you can use your thoughts to create a better life for yourself, to look for true love, to create if you want to travel, if you want to whatever it is that you feel in your heart that you want to do, that you could still do those things. And I know that it's not about just telling people to move forward and just forget everything that happened. That's not what I'm saying because I know what happened to me, but I don't have to play it out in my entire life. When I felt like somebody was abusing me or mistreating me, I spoke up and I still speak up. And often I left those relationships. And it wasn't about, being arrogant. It was more about being confident. It was more about expecting that there are that I deserve better and those people will come. It was more about setting those boundaries, because often when we don't accept it and we're confused, we allow people just to do whatever they want to us. But setting boundaries that if I don't feel like hugging you, if I don't want to see you, if I don't want to talk to you, it's okay. I don't have to feel guilty because I have accepted what has happened and I've chosen to live my life this way from a life of love, from a life of from the thoughts of self-preservation. And then moving forward, I didn't want to. One of the things when we talk about moving forward, say, yeah, well, I move forward. Yeah, I still have this hate, I still have this bitterness. But moving forward, truly moving forward in your life is when you have let go of the baggage, right? Because it can slow you down. It can truly slow you down when you're angry. Because I did spend some time where I was angry and I felt like I wanted people to get in trouble. I wanted justice for what was done. But I needed to live my life. What I realized I needed to live my life on my terms, that I can't wait for an apology. I can't wait for people to admit their truth. That if I'm doing that, then I have not moved forward. But I move forward on my terms, my boundaries, what I allow, how I decide to think, how I choose to feel, that these are my emotions and my feelings. And the other thing is to live consciously. that my as a result of my mother's principle, I wanted to live consciously. I wanted to be aware of my thoughts and my feelings, anything that come upset, because I believe that when things happen, you can have things that are known to you, that your known feelings, but there are some things that may be hidden. Some things we may have unintentionally tucked away, because especially when things can happen such as a young age or even older, that's that kind of immediate coping response. But that's why it's a daily renewal. It's a daily of, what's going on inside of me and what do I need to let go? And how is this experience affecting me? How am I allowing it to affect me? So it caused me to be more conscious of being able to really be there in the moment with my emotions, allowing myself to feel my emotions and knowing that I didn't have to keep living with those emotions. And so I can honestly say, the saying that if you don't know what you stand for, or if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for everything. And I really believe I could literally feel myself that when I was doing this throughout the years, building my my interior, my exterior, building from the inside out with these principles that have helped me not just with what I went through as a child, but also as an adult, and not taking things personally and what people say, going back to these thoughts when I allow myself to take it personally, going back to these principles that I turned into principles. And so I hope that this principle has been beneficial for you. That often, we want to run, we want to hide, we want to really just forget about the past. But the past, every experience builds on the next one. That there are lessons. It's like when I think about Mario Brothers or games where you kind of hit something and then this treasure comes out, ding. And that's what I think about with experiences. That no matter what, there is a treasure that is right there before us that we can use, something about ourselves that will help us to get to the next level in life, the next stage in life. And through those stages, you're going to come across people that may do on some level, project their pain on you, right? You're going to, at some point, but it's through these principles, it's through these treasures that you have gotten received from other experience that you took hold of, right? Because you have to acknowledge them, you have to take hold of them, that will allow you to get through these other experiences faster, right? With less damage, because you begin to know who you are. You begin to know what you like and what you want, what you stand for. You begin to attract the right people and weed off the ones that are not there for your ultimate good, or not at the stage of consciousness that you need them to be or want them to be. And so I encourage you to look at today, Friday, what is it that you need to let go? What is it that you need to come to accept as truth? Because your body knows. And I believe because our body subconsciously, how our heart speed, our digestive system, and we want to know where all these problems are coming from, it's because of things that we are holding inside of our body that we have not released. And so I was just telling my son that you are a gift to the world. God, or whoever you believe, our creator, brought you here for a reason with specific gifts, talents, and abilities. And it's it's your right to express those in this lifetime, no matter whatever it is that you've been through. But it's so important, it's so critical as the first step in healing from the inside out, the first step in becoming the best version of yourself, the first step in properly expressing your gifts and talents is that you accept the truth of your experiences. You don't color code them, you don't tell a different story. You know it happened, but this does not define me. I am more than this. I cannot be defined by an experience because I am more than these experiences. This is Timika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. And it's all about breaking the cycle of pain, getting to the root of those thoughts that continue to infect generations, hearts and minds with negative thoughts, with shame and guilt and bitterness and confusion and resentment and vengeance, anxiety, thousands of people, mental diagnosis every year, heart attacks, most likely heart events happening on Mondays. We deserve more than that. Life was not meant for us to struggle with diseases and illnesses. No, we are here on a earthly journey, uh, put in human form, spiritual beings to experience life through a multitude of experiences here to reflect the truth of our being. You have the right, and what I thought, I have the right to enjoy my life. And I'll keep saying that. And it could be your mantra. You have the right to enjoy your life no matter what someone did, said, um, someone didn't do, or they didn't say. You have a right to enjoy your life, to really see yourself as someone who, a divine being that have a specific purpose here on earth. And I long to share these principles with people because I know how helpful they have been for me and for those that I've shared these with, including my children and professionally throughout my career. One of them being is that after you accept the truth, then you can move forward, truly move forward into full expression of who you are. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to your comments, and stay tuned for next week podcast on Wednesdays, The Seeds We Plant, where we look at the parental aspect of undoing these negative these weeds that have been planted and really creating the generational love cycle that you want to, and of course healing from the inside out, where we really shine light, if you will, on those negative thoughts, those negative things that are inside of us, and allow for the full expression of ourselves. I'll talk to you soon.